This is the Effing Business Podcast. You ask the questions, we answer.
We were having an outside conversation. You were talking about like high talent and moving a stat line or moving the needle at all for your team, especially in a team sport like basketball, for example, where one player is going to move the needle more than maybe in football, where a wide receiver isn't going to move the needle as much as maybe as a quarterback. Okay, so in that same tone, does one person of a company move the needle more than the next, or is it
by position or individual people?
Position, collective, group, or is it all team?
I think that's specific to each business.
Okay,
so
meaning
some businesses are very process laden, where the individuals and their talents are less apparent or needed,
right?
Because they're married to a process. They can do that.
Okay.
I would say a lot of blue collar related things, a lot of repetition, but I would think
you almost don't want stars because
you actually look for lesser talents because you don't want to pay individuals high amounts when you've almost dumbed down their tasks.
You put the same screw in a million times.
Correct. And then on the other side of that, where you have businesses that need talent, lawyers, doctors, I think that's probably the upper echelon of things, but everywhere in between. In our marketing company, we don't have a process that eliminates people's talents. We seek talent, right? We intend to bring on people who push us. There's a process in place in how we do things, but the process is secondary to the talent.
Right, and I think what happens with companies in general with talent is they go out and they seek the star in their eyes, right? This guy's going to be great. He's going to be X position and he's going to be amazing at it. And then what they do is they get that person in and they push their ideals and their things on top of that person. So you brought in a star to be a star, and then you put parameters around that star, and now he's no longer a star. He's just in a room.
When you're running a company, you have to determine what you're looking for.
Right.
Okay, so where you start. I know somebody individually we talk about often and how he runs his business, and he always says, I need this star, I need this star, I need this star. And I'm always telling him, no, you don't need a process. Some businesses don't need those stars, and their operators don't know that. Their management doesn't know that. So he's seeking stars, but he really just needs a star to help him build a process, right? And then he can plug people into those processes. If you look at the biggest companies in the world, most of those companies...
He's looking for a clone of himself, basically.
Somewhat, correct.
Clone of himself, and he's not even willing to find anybody close and train a person to get anywhere near.
Correct. His business doesn't lack a star. He's the star. It lacks a process. So think about an NBA team. Traditionally, the NBA team had one great player, one generational player. The rest were process. They needed somebody to rebound. They needed somebody to play. Exactly. And that's what he needs, in my opinion. Of course, I'm putting my views on his business and so forth. But I think as a business owner, you first have to determine what your business needs. Okay, and I think where people make a lot of mistakes are they determine they need a process when they need star players, and then they do the opposite. They determine they need star players when they just need a process.
And they double down on what they're not good at.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, they have a need, right? Let's say that need is sales, and they're really good at sales, but they
don't do sales, and they're busy packing boxes to ship out when they're correct. Actually, we know somebody else. I don't know if it's coming to your mind right now who does the same thing, where he has great energy, he's a great salesperson, he's out there trying, but the other people involved in
the details.
Correct, are too busy tying him up into production, but production has no value if you can't make sales, you have nothing to produce.
Correct.
And some businesses need a balance. You need star power, right? And you also need a process, and you have to figure out how they work together, how they coexist, and where it's needed.
Getting a little bit back into the sports talk with mixing into like company, I think basketball is like the greatest example because it's very much a team sport. You see like LeBron's gone to teams, and yes, they've gone to championships and so on, and he's probably the greatest player of the generation. So he's a star, and you put really anybody around him, he's going to get to the finals in certain conferences. Where when he went to the Heat, he had other stars around him, right? He had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and then other role players who were veteran, know my role. I'm here to shoot threes only. I'm here to rebound only. I'm here to do this. They were there for their roles. Where then when he went to Cleveland, you had some young guys, but then you had guys who had roles but wanted to be stars also.
So there's almost a redundancy.
Correct.
Where he needs more role players, more spot-up shooters, more defenders, and less star players because there's only one ball.
Correct.
How do you fit that into business?
So you're really good at sales, right? And then you don't find those role players, and you don't find even stars in those role players. You are going to have to constantly be doing those roles, which then takes away the time or effort and energy and so on from you being a star, what you're good at, right? Double down on what you're good at and find people to replace what you're not.
Okay, so what's the process? Because I think a lot of people misunderstand or misjudge their own abilities and talents. How does one determine what they're good at? Does it go back to
self-awareness? I mean, like, it's the hardest thing. Like, if someone tells you, "Hey, you're a narcissist," right? You're really narcissistic.
Has anybody ever said that to you?
No, it never happens. Okay. You're told you're a narcissist or you're good at sales, go do that. And then you're like, yeah, I'm good at sales, but how am I going to fill this order? And you get caught in like how you're going to fill the order of the thing. Like, find a process manager and go make sales and tell him to handle all that. But they put no trust into anything but themselves because they're caught up in I'm so great or I'm so lousy at this and so on and so forth.
Okay.
That's what you got.
You said instead of just like coming up with
I hate
ideas.
these rolling starts. Can we take a topic? No, we're recording. Like, no, we're like actually.
I feel you.
And then like also, we're in the middle of a podcast. It's like
Going back to, I know.
Whoa, hold on. I'm not a narcissist. A disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. My self-importance is not.
you're right, because you're way past disorder.
Wait, no.
You're like mental illness.
I want to clarify. Mine's not inflated. Mine is factual.
So Vince, what's it like being a narcissist? What's it like putting on your pants in the morning knowing you're a narcissist? Have you sought help for it?
Is it narcissism or is it self-confidence?
No. Self-confidence is something different than narcissism.
Well, no, because
Most narcissists probably have self-confidence.
When you're confident and you think you're better than people, is it you think you're more important, or do you think that?
Okay, so let me frame this differently. When they interview,
there's not a room I walk into where I think I'm not the smartest person in it.
So fine. Let's frame this differently. When you're watching an interview and they show a basketball player, they show a guy who's clearly of a less talent than say LeBron James, and they ask him like, "Do you think you're going to win today?" And he goes, "Yeah," and you're like, "But like you're playing LeBron James and like you average 2.3 points a game, right?" Yeah, but I got this. I'm in the NBA. I can do this.
His name's J.R. Smith.
That dude's not a narcissist. He has confidence.
I guess like J.R. Smith right before that does not help my argument.
He has confidence.
Yeah.
Right? He's worked hard to be where he is to get to 3.2 points a game.
Right.
Right? But is he a narcissist? He believes he can do those things.
So you've known me the longest.
Being self-confident and being a narcissist is not the same thing.
You've known me the longest.
It's a component of it.
I had this when I was at the bottom. I had this self-importance.
It manifests differently.
What does that mean?
This is like a Dr. Drew episode. I've never even seen that. You've always enjoyed being the center of attention. Wait. I want to make something very clear. Everything I'm going to say is not a criticism. It's what I believe. Okay? But it's not meant as a criticism. It's just how I see it, so don't take it that way.
I'm not.
You smell and you're ugly. Okay. You've always enjoyed being the center of attention. That's always been important to you, as far as I can tell. It only dawned on you.
It's not. It's
only,
not important to me.
What?
It's not important to me.
I think you can say that.
I like being there, though.
I think you can say that, but I think your actions speak louder than words. So here, you've only realized in the last couple of years, 5 or so years, maybe even less, that you're smart and you're smarter than many people, and
so it's
you're
newfound world.
Yeah. So you've combined your desire to be the center of attention.
I was wondering why.
With what
your car, it plays that Aladdin song. A whole new world, a magic place I never knew. Okay, go ahead.
So you've combined your desire to be center of attention and what you perceive as your ability, and you call that self-confidence, but it's just another version of being narcissistic. I don't think, though, being narcissistic is automatically a negative thing.
But that's how it's perceived.
There's a negative connotation to a lot of things.
In the room.
As a rule, I think most things in life are neutral. It's what you do with it, right? So ego isn't a bad thing. Ego gets you out of bed. Ego drives you. But when your ego starts to step on other people and get in the way of them and putting them down or whatever.
I have good narcissism.
Oh, I wasn't saying that either. I was just saying that because we're saying you're a narcissist, and when I say we, I mean everybody who knows you, all 7 people, doesn't mean you should go and feel bad about yourself and cry in your car and possibly look for the tallest bridge to drive off of. Are we done with this podcast? Publish that, I'm out. How refreshing is my honesty?
Okay. Wow. I just don't see it as narcissism.
What do you see it as? I'm so self-confident.
I think narcissism is like a lack of actual importance, but you think you're important.
Oh, so you're saying if you actually are important, then you're not narcissistic.
That's the reality. I'm not saying me. I'm saying a person A, let's call it. He happens to be the president of the United States. And at the time, there's a high approval of that president of the United States. Okay? So everyone likes this president. Is he narcissistic for thinking he's important?
Yes, possibly. Depends how that person goes about it. So President Trump, I think everybody would agree, regardless of what you think about his politics and all that, would agree that he's a narcissist as a president. Okay. I don't.
But he was a narcissist.
But I don't think people would say the same thing about George Bush, though. I don't think, regardless of what you think about his leadership and his politics and all that, I don't think people would say he's a narcissist.
Who?
George Bush. But he's a really important person. He was a president. So is Trump.
But in a personal meeting with you, would he portray himself as a very important person?
What I'm saying is certain people who are important know they're important, so they don't have to tell you. Donald Trump.
I tell people I'm important?
Yeah.
No.
Can you get the Bible so he can swear in that like it's a deposition or testimony?
I give off like a self-importance energy.
Yeah.
Really?
Y'all should be getting mirrors, bruh.
You can't see energy in mirrors, you fucking idiot.
Oh, I don't know. You should get something. See, this is what I didn't want to do. I didn't want this to turn into like, woe is me. I didn't know I'm doing that. I just want to talk about people's humanity. Your humanity. Did you just break